Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Monday morning. We will be pretty much morning to afternoon lunchtime here for the East Coast crowd. We will be a morning to lunchtime for the Central crowd. And for those of you on the West Coast, we are your morning drive, I guess, or you just got to work, actually, probably, if you're on a normal 9 to 5 or whatever you work. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Welcome in as we are already down to the Final Fours. Unbelievably, we have arrived at the Final Four programs on the men's and women's side of the tournament. It felt like we just got this started, and yet here we are. Lots to discuss, obviously, in Division III. Lots to get through, to understand, etc. We're not going to be able to probably do it all today. It's just as much as we might try, it might be a hill too far, but we will do our best. If you got questions for us, you can email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com, or comments. Don't have to just be questions. You can also find us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and Threads at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Admittedly, it's hard to follow all of them as one person hosting the show, but we'll do our best. We're also on Facebook, where we're live simulcasting the show, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Also on Blue Threads there, whatever it's called, Blue Sky. Sorry, brain hasn't fully kicked in. We're also live streaming on YouTube at youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. That's where you can get a hold of us, and hope you will do just that. Wow, what a weekend. None of the hosts got through. That's the big one, right? None of the hosts got through. It's been a long time since we have seen that, and I don't even know what to make of it myself. We knew that there's always the likelihood that's going to happen in Division III. There's never not where that might happen. I think I hear our puppy scratching at the door, so we might have to get him in the room here in a little bit. But we never, it's never that we don't see Division III. The hosts have never come through all unscathed from the sectional weekend. There's too many what ifs. There's too many sectionals being hosted by teams because they are geographically centric or the right one to choose. This year, obviously, a little different because Trinity hosted versus Catholic. If you went absolutely chalk on that, but I still don't think Catholic's getting through. Obviously, the NYU women were not hosting because they couldn't host because the NYU men were hosting, and there were some close ones, right? NYU and Redlands had a dandy of a game in the Elite Eight round. There were some great games. I shouldn't say just them. There were great games across the board. Stellar event. And certainly kept it interesting through and through. I got to see games at Gettysburg, and they did not disappoint. Hats off to the Bullets of Gettysburg, who did not play with arguably their best player for the second time this year. Arnley was out for the second round, third round, and quarterfinal round due to the concussion she suffered in the first round. And the team played extremely well. And I would say for about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the game against NYU, they went at them. NYU's that good. Though NYU on Friday, scary, first half of that game against Western New England. I'm sorry, against Geneseo. Talking to them later, a lot of times you compare teams, right? Hey, this is a Wash U. Hey, this is a Carnegie Mellon. This is an Emory-like team. That's where you trigger their mind. They said they didn't have one for Geneseo. They didn't have a comparison to go, hey, this is like X. They didn't have one. And they struggled in the first half. I thought they took too many three-pointers. Yeah, they were, 3 of 17, I think, at the break, or at the halftime break. But they got through it, and hats off to them getting through all the way, as it were. Stout, talk about just gutting it out. Not only a back-and-forth affair with Whitewater on Friday, but then a back-and-forth affair with Scranton, who came in with only one loss in the quarterfinal game. And Stout pulls it off. We'll hear from them coming up in this show. We'll talk about everybody we're going to be talking to coming up in this show in a bit. Smith, gosh, we got to... I'm guilty of downplaying and not having much expectations for Smith this year. Lynn Hersey's squad goes up to Bowdoin again. Arguably this year, with not as good a team as last year when they faced Bowdoin in the quarterfinals, and in a round earlier, the Sweet 16, they knock off the host Polar Bears, who hadn't lost all season. And then they go and they beat Gustavus Adolphus, who had lost once back near Christmas. Unbelievable. Smith. Lynn Hersey's squad's back to the Final Four. And Brad Fisher's Titans of Oshkosh are scary good. Scary good. They got through the weekend as well, and including beating Illinois Wesleyan, another one-loss team. Maya Smith's team, this might have been one of the best ones she's had since that national championship team. And Brad Fisher's team went in on the road in that game and got the victory. Really impressive work by Brad Fisher and his squad. On the men's side, what can you say? We already said NYU's men pulling it off. It's stunning results, to say the least. It's going to be an all-UAA NESCAC Final Four, and they're on opposite sides. We have conference games in the semifinals. Trinity and Wesleyan are going to rematch for the third time. It was a conference title game. It will be a national semifinal game. They've split the season. Wesleyan's only loss is to Trinity. Trinity took out Catholic after Catholic actually got out to a lead. Catholic was playing really well, but the Bantams ended up knocking down the Cardinals, who hadn't gotten that far since the 2001 national championship. I think the next year they lost in the Sweet 16, if memory serves, when many thought there was an outside chance they could get back. And then you had Wesleyan, who, with Emory, Emory was down 12 with about 7-something to play. Came back, tied it, forced overtime, and had a chance to tie it in overtime at the buzzer. Great game by Emory and Jason Zimmer's squad. Wesleyan prevails at home. Trinity, of course, and Wesleyan playing 15 minutes apart. And now they'll play each other in Fort Wayne, surprisingly enough. Unbelievable. Seriously unbelievable. Really, really darn impressed with how that turned out. And then on the other side of it, you've got a UAA matchup between NYU and WashU. NYU battling with Redlands. Redlands team that they were up on, but Redlands came storming back once again. They've done this against a lot of teams and got it to work. And so NYU will join their women, not in the same place, but in the Final Four. And then on the flip side of that, you've got WashU. I will tell you right now, I did not have that much faith in WashU. But WashU gets through. First off, beating Wisconsin Lutheran in a game we absolutely got what we expected in the Sweet 16. What a rematch of last year's first round game. Terrific. And here we are with WashU getting through the Elite Eight to get to the semifinals, and they'll take on NYU. Because of course they will. By the way, NYU, first time they're back to the Final Four since '94, when they lost to Lebanon Valley. I think that was in the semis. No, there was a title game. 94 title game. First time they're back to the Final Four since the 94 title game. And here's where I'm slightly dated, but not. I wasn't in Division III yet. Lebanon Valley wins that one. The next year, they lose in the first round, considered one of the biggest upsets in the tournament history, to my alma mater, and I would arrive the next fall. So a year and a half later, I would arrive in Division III. That's how long NYU's been gone, for those of you who know how old I am. So congrats to everybody. Unbelievable. And we have got a great show on tap for you. We're going to jam as much as we can into the show without jamming too much into the show, if you understand what I'm saying. We will have a dose reverse segment with NYU coming up here shortly. Natalie Bruns, the graduate student forward and last year's player of the year, will join us along with Tristan Howe, a men's graduate forward for the men's team. And they will talk about the other team. That's the dose reverse segment coming up. Then we'll hear from Hannah Iverson and Anna Munch. I got to double check that. I may have misspelled it somewhere. From the number 22 Stout Blue Devils. We'll talk to the coach and senior guard coming up. Pat Coleman sat down with Pat Yuckham after their big win to get through. We'll hear from Pat Yuckham's squad, and himself, with Pat Coleman, about what's going on with the WashU Bears. We'll try and dip into a few press conferences. My plan was to record them, put them on, have them all ready to go, but that plan went awry last night. I am up to here. If you're looking on the screen, I'm above my head, with work in every world. This world, my spring sports world, and my MLB world. I am barely sleeping, and so I couldn't get it done like I wanted. So we're going to try and dip in, especially maybe Smith's women's press conference, and maybe a couple others. We'll try and dip in and grab some sound from those throughout the show. And then Matt Lewis will join us from the Oshkosh men's program. Maybe not putting it two and two together. Matt reminded us on Saturday night he has had a front row seat to how good Brad Fisher is as a head coach at Oshkosh. But also, remember, he was assistant to Pat Yuckham when he was at Oshkosh. And he left Oshkosh for WashU. Lewis takes over, goes on to a national championship. We will hear from Matt Lewis on who those two men are, what those two programs likely are from his perspective. I think it'll be a fascinating conversation with Matt Lewis. That's all ahead here on an early Hoopsville for us, which almost cost us at the same time. Hope you will enjoy it. We will jam in as much as we can. We will interact with you as much as we can. We will do it on the socials. We'll do it in every possible way we have. We would look forward to hearing from you. I've got the emails up and running. You are good to go to join us and try and interact. So much to talk about in Division III basketball. Final Four is on tap, and quickly a reminder, women's games will be at 4:30 and 5 o'clock and roughly 7:30 on the semifinals on Thursday. Men will be 5:30 and 8. The 8 is a floater. It's basically 30 minutes after the title of the previous game, though I think max time, like if it goes earlier, we'll still be at 7:30 and 8. But if, for example, the games go longer, then it's like, 7:45 maybe and 8:10, whatever. But that's the timing. And then the championships both at 4 o'clock on Saturday. I know the All-Star game for men is at 1 o'clock. And another note that we haven't gotten to, we'll try and get to later in the show, the Jostens finalists have been announced, the 10 per side, men and women. Vote is due this week for Jostens voters, and it will be out next week. The winner will be announced. So there you go. I will wrap it up from here as we got to get to our Zoom system and get in our first guest from NYU. Bruns and Howe will join us to do a little dose reverse. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Thanks for joining us on a midday edition.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Division III men's and women's basketball players build skills and characteristics that set themselves up to win in life. How do they translate those skills when the ball stops bouncing? They join Dream Team, the network built by and for athletes who want to leverage their competitive advantage in careers and business. Find your post-basketball calling, your next team, and learn how to win big at DreamTeamWins.com. That's DreamTeamWins.com.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches. I'm not going to cut that off and get going. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. It's a midday edition of the show. We have not had enough of the coffee, so you'll be see me sipping plenty. We're going with a dose reverse that admittedly I started to set up last week because I knew I wouldn't have time overnight. So I put my cards in that NYU would get through on both the men's and women's sides. I apologize to my friends at Gettysburg. We had an alternate plan if you won, and we had an alternate plan if the men did not get through, but it worked out. So we get another dose reverse today because we're going to talk to 2 programs who are number 1 in the nation, but they can't talk about themselves necessarily. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline from the NYU men's program, it's Tristan Howe. And from the women's program, it is Natalie Bruns. Welcome in, you two. Congratulations on getting to Tristan, a program first Final Four since '94. Natalie, just another trip to the Final Four.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun this year, and we hope to bring home the trophy.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And definitely don't take the Final Four trips lightly. So
no,
but we're in it. We're in it.
Of course, you don't take it lightly. I would never expect it, but it is, Natalie. Pretty darn impressive what you all are doing. First and foremost, I mean, this is reminiscent of WashU, though not at the length. Of course, your coach knows that fully well, having been on the receiving end of those beatings for 81 games. Not all of them, luckily for her. But Natalie, you're again through. I know that's the goal, but it's never. I mean, I guess people think it's going to be easy for a program like yours. I think I saw this weekend it wasn't easy.
Yeah, I think having the title of reigning national champions, you have a target on your back for sure. And any team that's going up against you theoretically has nothing to lose, nothing to prove. So making sure that we maintain a mindset that knows that our competition is coming for us, and being on top of the little things is going to be really key for us this week. And it was really key for us this weekend, pushing into the second half of both of those games. Yeah,
first half against Geneseo, definitely, you guys didn't look like yourselves. I remember thinking, fallible. And then, listen, you took on a Gettysburg squad. You punched them in the nose at the beginning, and they came back at you, and they wouldn't go away. And it was a fun game for about 3/4 of it. Tristan, you have a very different perspective. You transfer into a program that's had expectations for the last couple of years of doing this. Last year, there was high expectations that they could pull this off, and it didn't work out. What's your perspective of your own program that you've literally only been around for less than a year?
Yeah, I think my transition was very seamless, and I think that's a credit to like the culture Coach Klatsky and his team has built here, and just having some success with grad students, former walk-ons at ACC schools like Sav last year. And I think the kind of like key of our team is that we're just super selfless and we spread the wealth. I was able to come in and I think really make an impact, scoring the ball and rebounding, but also just doing a lot of the little things. But really, I think it's that locker room that's so special, and that really allows us to go out on the court and compete with anyone. And, why we have the record we do and why we're heading to Fort Wayne.
He did say walk-ons, folks. He was not talking walk-on at NYU. Just want to clarify. He was definitely talking walk-on at D1. I'm going to come back to this a little bit in our wild card section, but this is the dose reverse, which means technically you're not allowed to talk about your teams anymore. We've thrown the reverse card out there. I want to talk about the programs from the other perspective. And Tristan, I'm going to go with you first because, again, you come into this NYU program having been at Virginia. Mm-hmm. You've seen top flight basketball, obviously. You don't necessarily travel the women's team, but I know you're familiar with them. You come into an NYU program that has been a juggernaut for a little bit of time here. Quarterfinals in the 2023, haven't lost since with a national title. What's this team like to watch when you see them, especially in UAA play, but what's this team like to watch?
Absolutely. I'll break it down between practice and games because I'm able to see a little bit of practice and when we overlap at Paulson, and then we would travel together in UAA play. Like you said, I think 60-0 at this point, Natalie, from last year. I think just winning is winning, regardless of the level. There's a winning culture that across every division, every sport, it's similar. And I think, Natalie talked about doing the little things well. And in practice, I see that. There's extremely high levels of communication, super attention to detail. And that goes from, Natalie, UA Player of the Year, the starting five, to the people who aren't playing. I think that's just a commitment to a culture that's about winning and doing everything as excellently as you can. And then on the court during the games, I think their team is extremely loud in the best way possible. You can always hear their voices from the bench to on the floor. And sometimes we'll overlap in practice and we'll be in our huddle. We just hear them screaming and we have to come tighter because we can't really hear coach talk. So that's just that's what winners do, right? They just over communicate. And I think that's something I always pick out during the games, whether it's on the road or at home.
I love over communication too, Tristan. It tells me a ton as a former athlete, whether I look like it or not. I agree. I know my son's probably listening. I try to get him to over communicate because I think it's so important. And Natalie, wow, that is definitely something I picked up on this weekend. I've known your team, I've seen your team, but I don't think I've appreciated the communication until I saw it this weekend with the group of yours. Natalie, on the flip side, what is it about this men's program? First off, bringing players like Tristan in, right? This is not typical, and it will probably run out as the COVID clock runs out, but they've had a lot of success with that, but they've also had a lot of homegrown talent. What's the perspective like from you?
Yeah, I think over the 4 years that I've been here, obviously the men's program has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I give a lot of credit to Coach Klatsky and his whole staff because, as Tristan mentioned, the culture that they've built has really allowed for not only great talent, but great people to come in. All of the transfers that they've had have been just incredible additions to their programs, and we've had a lot of fun traveling with them, both on the court and off the court. And, talk about sharing the wealth. I think this year's men's team has done an exceptional job of that. Different guys having 20, 30-point games each night. And I think that is the reason that they've been so successful over the course of this season.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen a team basically go from 500 to being a national competitor number one. That's got to be fascinating to watch. Natalie, I'll also throw it out there. What's it been like for both programs? I'll be a little fair here. It's for both. To have to deal with the logistics. Tristan didn't have to go through playing in multiple gyms and thinking you're playing on your new gym and nope, it's another year away due to a water problem. Like, what's it been like to watch both teams adapt to that?
I think it builds a lot of grit, and you never know the circumstances of the tournament. Things are always going to be up in the air, whether it's reffing, home court advantage, how you slept that night, what hotel you're in. So I think just having some experience on the back end of that before we actually get to crunch time is really huge for both programs and actually builds a lot of character and builds a lot of resiliency for when we actually get to those tough moments.
All right, Natalie, so let me ask you a question about their coach, Klatsky. As you said, you've seen this program change over the years, which also means you've seen the coachings change as well. What is he bringing to this team that's impacting Tristan and the rest?
I think it's community, I think it's care, and I think it's attention to detail. Even just looking at the difference between the two coaching staffs, I'm very friendly with all of the coaching staff on the men's side. We've actually my apartment has dog sat for Coach Brandon. We've babysat for Coach Chris. So more of like a family feel, and you can just tell that he cares about all of the people that he brings in, and by transfer that all of the players care about each other and they care about their coaching staff. So it is really selfless to see, and everybody's just playing for each other, which is obviously what you want in a basketball team, and it makes the whole experience that much better.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I need a dog sitter. Hey, call up Natalie, see if she's available. That's brilliant. Tristan, what do you see in Meg Barber that maybe is different than Klatsky, or how do the two kind of compare? But especially, what do you see in Barber and the way she gets them ready?
Yeah, I think when we talk about just like what it takes to win, like it'd be really easy to have your ego inflated by the record the women's team currently holds, and being in the Final Four. But when I see, Coach Meg, I just see like consistency, and it doesn't matter who they're playing. The first game of the season, last game of the UAA, in the tournament, she just seems to have the same approach each time. And I think that's what greatness is about. Like, it doesn't matter who's across the line. Once that ball is tipped, anything can happen. So you need to prepare the same way, for each game. And I just think that's what she's done. That's why they're 16-0. And I bet going into this Final Four game, she doesn't care about those previous 60 games. She's focused on that one and getting that win, whatever it takes.
Good perspective. That's I appreciate that one. Tristan, you're all getting on airplanes, so that doesn't really matter. But you got to be at home the second weekend. They got to be at home the first weekend. What's it like to not be traveling with the women's team, essentially, and have these big games ahead of you in a place you don't know?
Yeah, it's like we were talking about this earlier for some reason. I forget, Natalie, but that's like our counterpart for the UAA trips. We'd always be together, which is a lot of fun. But yeah, I know, like, regardless if we'll be in different locations, we'll keep in touch and keep tabs on each other's scores. I know after our game, we're like checking in, or like Malik, who's traveling with us, like compliance administrators will let us know what the score is. So I know we'll be in touch, and I think we both have faith in each other to get the job done, in the Final Four and make that championship game and come out on top.
Natalie, again, you're back. You're certainly familiar with what these logistics are and all that, but you're going to a place that's surprisingly new for all of you. We're so synonymous with Salem hosting championships, but they haven't hosted one since pre-COVID. I think this is technically their COVID hosting year. again, same question, but from what the men are dealing with, what's it like to pack up, get ready, and head out the door for someplace you're not familiar?
I mean, I know we travel in a league that's kind of all over the place as well. So having a lot of grad transfers that are new to the program on the men's side and them going and playing in different places and having so much success on the road. They actually didn't lose a game on the road all season. I have all the faith in them that they know how to take care of themselves, their schoolwork, their bodies to prepare themselves best for these games. And like Tristan said, we have people in our ears while we're playing, making sure that we're checking in on the men's score. Even just this past Saturday, like after we're celebrating, we're like, oh, what's the men's score? What's the men's score? We just want it for them so bad. So, we definitely have faith in them as well. And it's unfortunate that we can't travel together at the times where these games might be the biggest, but we definitely are cheering them on from miles away.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thought on it. I appreciate. All right, so we're doing a half job on this dose reverse, but I'm going to do my best to try and twist into it. Natalie, what is it about this men's team that clicks, that maybe not everybody understands? What is it about their chemistry? What is it about maybe some quirks that they have, superstitions, whatever it is, Natalie, lay it on the table.
I don't know about quirks or superstitions, but you can just tell this team just loves each other so much. They're dancing in warm-ups. They're playing for each other in games where it really matters. We also, too, got a chance to really get to know some of the returning players on our trip to China this past summer. So seeing how much they just play for each other is something that's going to take you further than any other attribute of a team. And I think we've seen that on our side. And finally getting to see that on the men's side and that come to fruition is really special. And getting to do it together is even more special.
Tristan, same flat idea. Well, lay it on the table, especially from your experience of having, been at D1 and how things have operated there. What's it about this women's team that clicks? What is it about their quirks, superstitions, something?
Yeah, I don't know about the superstitions piece, but I know they all similarly have a lot of fun when they play. And again, I'll bring it back to the bench because I think, it can be hard when you have some players who are maybe I don't know the full situation, expecting minutes, not getting them.
Sure.
Or, who it just isn't their time yet. They're still developing. But when the bench is really alive and supporting your teammate, cheering for them, whether you're getting some bench minutes or you're not playing at all, when you really see that in a program, I think that speaks volumes to the kind of culture that they have. And I see that every game. And I see that in practice too. And so for me, that's clearly the women's team has separated themselves from the competition because they're so bought into the culture of playing for each other and having fun on top of that. I think that's a really hard thing to beat.
Yeah, great perspective. Appreciate that. I'm switching to the wild card, and I'm going to throw the first wild card out there, though it's not really a great wild card question, but, we're going to go with it anyway. I'm curious what brought you to these programs. And Natalie, I'm going to start with you. You've been there, I think, all 4 seasons, if memory serves right. You've had stellar stats. I mean, that's how we know you've been there for all 4 seasons. 14 points a game. You'll probably go back to your freshman year, score a couple more points. You only averaged 9.9. The rest of the time, you're double figures. But, Natalie, what was it about this NYU program, Meg Barber, what she was bringing to the table, et cetera, that enticed you to come to New York, play there, and Natalie, for you, not having a home yet. You didn't have a home gym yet. That was a challenge to the recruiting. So what was it about NYU, the program, the school, et cetera, that attracted you there?
I think in terms especially of not having a home yet, they say the people make the place. When I went on my official visit when I was 17 in the fall of 2019, I could just see how much the girls cared about each other. At that point in time, Coach Barber had already told me about the term the sisterhood, and I don't think it could be more evident when you see us play or you see us interact on or off the court, how true that statement is. We really do think of each other like family. And just for that to be so evident in the short amount of time that I spent on my visit here, I knew that I could trust what Coach Barber was saying. And she was just, sitting across the table with me and my parents and saying, I want a national championship. And just seeing her intellect and how much she cared about NYU and the people that brought her there, I knew that she was going to be a successful coach. And I was happy to join her on that ride.
Well, she was happy to have you join her on that ride, Natalie, and it's got one in the bag and going for the second this coming weekend. Tristan, what was it? Yours is going to maybe fascinate me more. D1 athlete. You're at Virginia. I mean, let's be honest, Natalie, right? He made the wrong choice. He should have known better. D3 was where he should have gone in the first place. But, he finally figured it out for this final year in his grad. But, Tristan, what was it about knowing you had another year, technically 2, that you could play, and NYU being the place you wanted to come to and play that year? Like, how did you bridge that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the decision to play the final year was not something I decided on until I think the start of my senior year at UVA. And I think it was absolutely because of the work I put in as a walk-on there, pushing the guys who would get in the game, that I was prepared to step into this 5th-year role. Why NYU? I think, I took some visits to some other schools, kind of had my list. But for me, it was basketball, academics, and then just kind of an environment where I knew I'd be pushed and challenged. And I think New York does that for everyone because it's so unique and it's so busy. And the academics are great here, obviously, but the basketball, when I took my visit, I think I really immediately clicked with the guys. Talked about the culture piece. I enjoyed their presence, and then I also enjoyed the basketball and can very much see myself here playing and having a pivotal role. And to see that come to fruition has been awesome. I think Coach Clatsy and Thompson and Newsom and Feldman were super generous with their time and answering questions and just making sure I felt at home. And I just wanted to come and contribute to winning. And I think I've been able to do that this year, which has been a lot of fun. But I think after I took my visit here, I still had more lined up, but I was pretty much set on, okay, NYU is where I want to end up.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, listen, it's not the place for everybody, and I'm not trying to knock it. Just, you are in the city. There is no saying, oh, yeah, we're in New York, but in reality, you're well north or something. You're on the skirts of Manhattan. No, I've been there. You are there. And you are very much immersed in the city. And so you have to appreciate that world as well. Mm-hmm. Charlottesville to NYU. I'm just saying, a little different. All right, wild card for you two. Whatever you want to ask, Tristan, we'll start with you. Whatever you want to ask of the women's program or whatever it is, you are allowed to throw it out there. And don't worry, Natalie, you get your chance to.
Least favorite teammate. No, I'm just kidding.
Brilliant way to go, Tristan.
I would say, what's like
and why? We want sources and reasons.
Right. You can't just list their name. What is your favorite tradition y'all have as a team?
Okay, so this kind of started this year, a little bit last year, but I don't know if you guys have ever heard us in the locker room pregame.
No. Why would we hear you in the locker room, Natalie?
We are screaming, and basically we go around the room, and Chloe Teeter, one of the seniors, starts it all, and she's basically screaming at the top of her lungs. She's like, I'm ready for the game. Are you ready? Maybe she'll start with Belle. She'll scream at Belle, and then Belle will scream, I'm ready, Teeter. Are you ready, Bruns? And we go around the room.
Nice.
We end with our manager, and then at the end of it, we're all just kind of like screaming and getting our excitement out for the game. Especially, awesome. I think some of these bigger games, like when you have a little bit of nerves, just like channeling that into energy. Chloe Teeter does a great job, and that's by far our favorite pregame tradition.
Okay, that explains the start of the Gettysburg game then. I was trying to figure out how you all were so damn fired up and came out ready to punch. That explains it all. Good. All right. Great question. Great question, Tristan. Natalie, batter up.
All right, Tristan, having had two very different basketball experiences, has it been more fun playing at NYU or more fun playing at Virginia?
Brilliant. Natalie, well done. I was skirting that one the whole time. Love it. I'm going to sit here and drink my coffee.
They've both been so valuable. Fun, I would say NYU, just like having the opportunity to exercise, everything I've put in work-wise, in the gym, to have that, experience on the court has definitely been a lot of fun. And I credit that to playing, but just to the guys I'm playing with. Like you said, we always were smiling on the court, and it's a blast to not only practice, but to play. And, fun would definitely be NYU.
Awesome.
We've almost got the clip, Tristan. I need to try this again for my viral video, if you don't mind. D3 or D1, why is D3 better? Go. I'm kidding, Tristan. I'm not putting you there. Don't worry about it. I just wanted viral video. That's all. Apparently that's the thing I'm supposed to do.
I know.
You two, great time. Really appreciate it. My final question, non-wild card, Tristan, how you guys getting ready? When are you leaving? And what do you expect from your first opponent, who you know very well in WashU?
Absolutely. We're going to prep the same way we prep for each and every game, going through the details, scouting well. I think we're obviously very familiar with WashU. We've had success against them, but I'm expecting a different WashU team on Thursday. I really am. I mean, it's the tournament. We both know each other, but I think if we just go in and treat it like every other game, if we're going to give this our absolute best and execute the game plan and play for each other, we have a great chance. That all starts, today with some recovery stuff, some more lax practice, but Tuesday we head out and we've got to get our minds right.
When do you head out? When you get down to Fort Wayne?
Tuesday, tomorrow.
Got it.
Yep.
So you'll be there Tuesday through hopefully Sunday.
Exactly.
Natalie, what are your expectations? What are the plans? Who's on the docket for you?
UW Stout.
Oh yeah, you've got Stout, who we've actually got coming up on the show. I did that on purpose, and now I'm remembering why. Blue Devils, etc. What are the same thing?
Yeah, I think there's 2 UW teams in the Final Four this year.
Yeah, Oshkosh on the other side.
Mm-hmm. We know how competitive of a league that is, and I think their league play definitely prepares them for this tournament, knowing that they kind of came in and upset a few teams, including Scranton at home. So, like I have said all year, we take each game one game at a time, and we don't take any competition lightly. They're a very good team, and I'm really excited to play them.
Travel plans?
We leave tomorrow night for flying to Roanoke.
You are flying?
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be there through Sunday as well.
Interesting enough, Roanoke College went to NYU last weekend, so we kind of understand it. They did fly, whereas Hampton-Sydney, who's northeast slightly of Roanoke, and had to go also to NYU, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Bust. So I was just kind of curious. Yeah, they went through Baltimore and didn't visit, Tristan. It was
shame on them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it will be used against them when it's necessary. Hey, you two, great. Thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. Really appreciate the insight. We have a tradition on the show. We always give the final word to the guests. Natalie, we'll start with you, and then Tristan. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Yeah, thank you for having us today. I think this really showcases how much both programs have loved just the continued success and the environment that we've created on both sides, mostly due to the culture of not only the coaches but the players. So it's been super fun watching them have success and then also having them cheer us on the other side of that. So looking forward to this weekend, and we'll both be tuning in to each other and rooting for each other from miles away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the games are at different times too on Thursday, so I think that'll kind of work out in somebody's locker rooms. Tristan, final thought.
Yeah, thank you for having us, Dave. I learned something about the women's team, that tradition you'll have in the locker room. I will say we definitely can hear it. I will say that the locker rooms are kind of close, but now I know what's actually going on, which is exciting. But yeah, I think, we both just have an absolute, an awesome chance to go win it all. I know we're going to leave it out on the court and be cheering each other from afar.
Awesome. Tristan, no chance you want to give me that viral moment? You're just, why D3 so much better than D1?
They're different, and they're both awesome in unique ways. That's what I'll say.
Tristan. You're too smart for me, but then again, you are at NYU. There's a reason for that. You two, thank you so much. Congratulations. Tristan, look forward to seeing you in Fort Wayne. Natalie, I'm sorry I won't be able to see you in Salem, but it was fun to see you in Gettysburg. You all take care. Safe travels. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Natalie Bruns, Tristan Howe joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with them in the Dose Reverse segment. That segment's worked out so much better than I thought this year. That is definitely going to stay for future Hoopsvilles. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Natalie already mentioned them. Stout on deck for us. We'll talk to the head coach and a senior guard about what makes them click. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. As I just said to Coach, I am flying by the seat of my pants a little bit today. I have a breakfast that I haven't even touched yet, and I've been sipping on my coffee. And I know you're saying, breakfast? Dave, it's almost noon. Yeah, welcome to my world. I wake up a little later than most, but then again, I'm sending emails at 2 or 3 in the morning, and you can ask coaches like the one I'm about to talk to about what time my email came through. On the women's side, we've already mentioned them. UW Stout, the 22nd ranked Blue Devils, are on to the Final Four. They will play the number 1 ranked NYU Violets, and I have a feeling it just does not matter to the Blue Devils. They are ready for anyone at this point in time. They have gotten through the tournament, beating Scranton in the last round for starters. Whitewater to the round before that. They made sure to have a WIAC dandy of a game in northern Pennsylvania. It works in the tournament, even if it doesn't work necessarily on everybody's schedule. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk all about it is the head coach of the Stout Blue Devils, Hannah Iverson. And Hannah, you brought us a friend. This is a dangerous player that you have here at Anna.
She is. And please be cautious with your questions because she's a wild card pretty much everywhere, on the court, off the court. It's one of her best qualities. Hold
on. She's a wild card. I'll get my wild card graphic ready to go. We'll throw it out there, and we will start asking some dandy questions for Anna. Anna Munch joining us. Hey, congratulations, Anna, on this season, on what you've all accomplished. Just getting through the conference is tough enough, but here you are, Final Four. I'm going to ask a tough one. It's a bit of a wild card now that I think about it. Was this the expectation, or are you guys all playing well above what you thought you could pull off this year?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I for sure think, we always thought that this could be a possibility for us. The WIAC does a great job of preparing us for this moment. So, not surprised, but very pleased.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're not surprised. Admittedly, I think we are, but that's because, Coach, this WIAC, we always know it to be competitive. But I found myself on the outside looking in this year, not figuring out really what was what. Like, who was dominant, who was the second fiddle, who was middle of the pack. Whitewater, Oshkosh, yourselves, Stevens Point was playing some roles in that as well. There were others I have not mentioned. This was a really fascinating WIAC this year.
Yeah, and I think it is every year. And I think the NPI really highlighted that and made that really clear for a lot of people. And then I think the work that these 5 teams this year went and did in the tournament too kind of solidified that. I mean, us, Oshkosh and Whitewater, going into back-to-back Sweet 16s this year too. I mean, this conference is different than a lot of the ones out there. And I think people know that, but this is kind of adding a little more clarity to it, making a clearer picture, because in the WIAC, there is no rollover games. I think too, like looking at some of the just film as we walk through the NCAA tournament, you can go watch any game in our conference and it is 2 top level teams, which isn't always the case when you're kind of walking back on some of these other teams. Trying to find a really competitive game can be kind of a challenge. And I think this is, like Anna said, it gets us ready for these games. It makes us feel confident walking into these NCAA tournament games because they're level of games that we've prepared for and been through leading up to them.
Yeah, it certainly makes you prepared. Was there maybe, Coach, a little bit of an advantage, and it's the only word I've got in my head, or help, that your Sweet 16 game was a familiar opponent, so that you essentially got to prep for somebody even if it was somewhere else, and kind of not settle into the weekend, but it's not like you were stressing about trying to know somebody else. You were familiar with them.
Yeah, help is a tough word because I don't think anybody wants to sign up to play a team like Whitewater. I mean, they're a phenomenal team with some great players, well coached and all of the things. But it did make the scouting process easier, which I think is kind of what you're speaking to. For us, for the coaching staff and for our players, I mean, we walked out for the scout against Whitewater, and I think, Anna could have led it. Anybody else on our team could have led it. We know what we're walking into, but still a phenomenal team that you got to put a great product against to come away with the win.
Well, it's a fair point. Anna, from your perspective, you guys got Whitewater in that first game, but you knew you had Scranton ahead of you. Well, you eventually knew you had Scranton ahead of you. They played the second game on Friday. What was that turnaround like after the elation of getting past Whitewater in an absolutely crazy game, and then gearing up for what is considered one of the best teams in the country this year?
Yeah, again, I think this just speaks to the level of playing the WIAC. I think, we can go into any game feeling prepared for the moment. Scranton was a great team. Whitewater's a great team, obviously. So I think, just having the confidence, in stout basketball, that's going to be the thing that pushes us through.
What was that Scranton game like, Anna? Because first off, that's a tough place to play. Granted, they were on spring break, so maybe it was a little less edgy, but still tough. But at the same time, a tough team. Ben O'Brien's squad is very well coached. They've only got one loss in the season. What did you all expect, and what did you think you were able to pull off, as it were, to get the victory?
Yeah, I mean, what a great team, obviously well coached. I think they had a lot of threats on the floor. They came out, that first 5 minutes really swinging on us, and, we had to gear up and take that hit. But, I can compare them to pretty much any WIAC team. So, again, just the preparation from our conference, I think, really helped us in this tournament.
So, Hannah, what do you compare Scranton to if you were to line them up in the WIAC?
I think it was nice, honestly. Like, our lineups here, even when you look back to Ripon and Whitman and then Whitewater and Scranton, there's a lot of comparable approach to both teams. They've got a great body inside, just like Whitewater does. They've got phenomenal kids playing from the perimeter, just like Whitewater does there too. So we kind of were able to keep a lot of our presentation of our game plan and things like that in between, very similar. And I would say too, that's kind of who we are. Like any coach watching us on film is going to see we don't do a ton of different things. We believe in stout women's basketball. We believe in what we do and how we do it, and we pretty much approach it that way. We also have a piece that I think, every team at this point has. It's just about who's willing to do it longer, which is we're gritty and we want to be here. When you can count the number of teams still playing basketball on one hand, you're not going to get a bad basketball team, but you are going to find a bunch of teams that want to be here. And I think that piece for us has done us really, really well. And we have players who are ready for big moments. This kid's one of them, and Reagan and Amanda probably stole the stat line in that last game, but the 3 plays that I think turned the game around, Anna had a hand in all of them. And I think that's just what we have. We have a bunch of different threats in a bunch of different ways, but more than that, we have a lot of kids who are willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done that night.
It's a fascinating, I appreciate that. It's a great insight on who not only Scranton is, but who you are and how you're all here. 23-7, Coach. In women's basketball, we talked about how parity has allowed it to get deeper. But I can't remember the last time a 7-loss team got to the Final Four and was, I don't want to say legitimate threat. That's a horrible way of saying it, but my mind thinking in the long lines of absolutely earned their way there. Outside of an 8-game stretch, Coach, if you take that 8-game stretch out, I think that's where I really get to understand your team, because you go 4-4 in an 8-game stretch late in the season. Obviously, that's more than half your losses. That was a rough period. So my question is twofold. If we take that out, what do we really understand about your team? But then talking about that 8-game stretch, what did it teach you all about your team?
Yeah, still too soon for that stretch. Still too soon to reevaluate that. But no, I think what it tells you about our team is we're not afraid to have our back against the wall. We're not afraid to have the cards stacked against us. We're not afraid to be the underdog. We're not afraid to write the story we feel like needs to be written. And I think a ton of it is when you talk about a Blue Devil kid, that's who we recruit. That's the type of kids we like to bring in and have in our locker room and go to battle with. And that's what makes this place really, really special. Now, we have a phenomenal basketball team. We are more than just gritty and competitive. We have some very, very high-level athletes. We have all-American caliber to kids. We have a phenomenal system. We have a staff that prepares our kids and gets us ready to go. And I think we've always had the mindset we can play with anyone, whether we get a win or not. I think that's just this irrational belief in what we do and how we do it that really kind of propels us through there. But I think what that record shows you is you got 2 options when you fail, and in the game of basketball, a lot of times failure is correlated with losses. And this team didn't back down. It didn't determine how we were going to be propelled forward. We didn't look at it as this defines us or anything in between. We did fine-tune what we did, made some adjustments, learned from it, and then doubled down on what we do. And I think when you have that sense of belief and you have that sense of confidence in what you do and the people you're doing it with, you can really do anything. And I think this is bigger than just, the 16 girls in a jersey and the 3 coaches. This is a community effort right now. Like, you should see, Dave, how many people went out to Scranton. Like, it is wild. Blue Devil Nation is hot and they are ready to go. And I think it's just like a really, really fun thing to be a part of, not only for us, for our community, for our campus, for our university. We're really proud to have, UW Stout in national level right now.
Yeah, no, I got some messages from some saying, this is awesome, and we're not sure if anybody in Menominee understands what's going on.
Yeah.
They're in delirium. Yeah, it's delirium. Anna, great teams you've gotten through already. I know it's maybe a little early. Great team ahead, defending national champs, undefeated, Whitewater, Violets of NYU. Have you figured out who they are in the WIAC? And if not, or if you have, what are you expecting from that game in the semifinals?
Yeah, we haven't really talked much yet. We got practice later on, but obviously great team, number 1 in the nation throughout, the whole season. I think we're just really excited for the opportunity. As we said, we think we can play with anybody, so I'm very excited.
I would be excited just to be able to be going to Roanoke Valley and having this chance, Coach. But it is a work trip. It's kind of this catch-22. You want to celebrate, but you also want to succeed. How do you balance it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the really cool parts. Anna and I were just talking before we got on here that, it doesn't hit you yet. It doesn't really feel real. And that's probably, as a coach, that's probably the best thing I can hear a player say, because it means you're just locked on one game. I think from my perspective and our perspective as a staff, what we would like is everybody surrounding us to make this just a big deal. For everyone surrounding us to just make these girls feel like, the superstars that they are. And then as a staff, our job is to shrink the picture. Like, you walk in this gym, this is just another game. You walk in that film room, this is just another team. You have that scout in front of you. We approach this the same way that we have. And so I think there is a balance. And I think that's what's been really cool about having the circle around us, supporting us, just making sure we understand just exactly what this means. And I think it is a job of us to shrink the picture. But I also think that's a perk of having people who have believed in this expectations, like Anna, like her, 7 other seniors she's got on the roster with her. They've known that this is a thing this team can go do. So it's not shocking them. It is a thing that they have felt capable to do as they've approached this year.
Well, again, you get into the tournament as an at-large, having lost to Whitewater in the tournament, but then you beat Ripon, who's unranked, by 30. You then beat number 6 Whitman at home by 6. You beat Whitewater, who is number 16, by 6, interestingly enough, at Scranton. And now you play number 1, not to mention what you've done in the WIAC, Coach. This hasn't, by any stretch of the imagination, been easy. You had the benefit of being home the opening weekend. So be it. You still had to hit the road and go to Scranton the second weekend, and now you'll travel again. What's been the secret in the sauce, I guess? What has that you haven't given us? What's made this team click? What's made this team gel? What's worked so well for all of you?
Yeah, I think just this team. Like, honestly, there's not a lot of jobs that me or Coach Kai or Coach Brooke or the rest of our staff have to do at this point. Like, these guys run a ton of the show. They're their own motivation. They're their own why. They're their own propelling force forward. And I think when you have a team that is just, they're fighting and clawing for any one more second to have with each other. And I think that is a really, really special place to be. A lot of teams, just play for a win. These guys are playing for moments. These guys are playing for an opportunity to stay in this locker room, to wear this jersey, to be a part of this program for a little bit longer. And I think the other thing that we have been really true to is who we are. We haven't gotten outside of ourselves. I think that was a case, kind of going back to your question about some of those losses. That was a part of what led to some of those. We kind of got away from who we are and what we do and the things that have helped us be successful. And I think we've done a really good job as we entered this NCAA tournament of just doubling down on us and believing in that. I think the other thing, like going to play number 1 ranked team in the nation, like, as a competitor, I'm here for it. Like, this is what basketball is about. This is what March is about. And I think I said it before, but we're not afraid to be an underdog. And I think everybody wants to write a story and all the things, but you can't write it until that game gets played. And I think that's what we're excited for. The opportunity. We don't recruit people who don't want to compete. We don't recruit people who back down from a challenge. And so I know, as the head coach of this team, that locker room isn't afraid of that 1 in front of their name. Now, they respect it and understand it, but it's not a thing we're going to back down for. We feel very prepared for this opportunity, grateful to have it, and I think honestly ready to go.
Great insight. Really appreciate it. That's fascinating to hear. Anna, good luck following that. I understand why she coaches so well. One dynamic that's fascinating to me, Anna, I want your perspective on. You have 4 players who score in double figures, starting with Reagan Sorensen at 18 points a game, yourself at 13.5, Lexi Wagner at 12.5, and Amanda Geisen? Geisen. Oh, I thought I had it. 12 points a game. Nothing against Mary Berg and the rest, but then it's a steep drop-off. It's 5 points and less for everybody else. So it's a 4-horse race, as it were. Anna, from your perspective, what's it like to, A, have that many weapons, but at the same time, you're kind of relying on those 4 weapons. you might get some contributions from others, but it's really that quad that's your scoring brunt.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having 4 double-digit scores, that poses a tough matchup for other teams. But I know you talked about that drop-off. I think we really put value in, other things other than just scoring the ball. Sam Schaefer, our starting point guard, great defensive player, point guard, pushing the tempo for us. I think we place value in the things that are important. So, yeah, of course we have 4 great scores, but, those other kids are what, help us win those games too.
Yeah, Coach, there's rebounding, there's assists, there's holding on to the ball with no turnovers, there's steals, there's blocks, there's other things, right?
And I think, too, putting the ball in the hole that's just the final part. If anybody who's watched our offense in action, you can't do it with 1 kid. You can't do it with 4 kids. It takes all 5. And it's a pretty picture when it gets going. But we don't get Anna to score if Sam doesn't get the ball up the court without turning it over. We don't get Reagan with some of these easy block touches if Rosella Willie doesn't hit a body on a screen. We don't pull a defense if Mary Berg's not pulling a gap. And I think this is what's cool is sometimes those things are really hard. Everybody wants a pretty stat line. Everybody wants something that gets them these awards at the end of the year. And I think, and Dave, you and I've talked about this before, that sometimes those stats are just they're the biggest killer to some of these kids' opportunities because that's all we're going off of.
Yeah,
we're not going off of the level of talent they're playing. We're looking at these numbers and comparing them based off purely numbers, not based off the conference that they play in or the competition that they're playing or how many minutes they play or how deep their team is. And I get it. It's hard to evaluate all those things from an award perspective, but I do think when you have a team that can buy into doing those things, whether you get the credit or not, that's when things get different. And I think that's why we're here doing this with the 22 in front of our name. There's a lot of teams where if Anna had to be the one that scored and she needed that for her, we wouldn't be here. If Reagan needed that for her, we wouldn't be here. If Rosella Willie was not comfortable with her stat line, we wouldn't be here. And you look at it, those kids are putting the ball in the basket, but at halftime of the Scranton game, Rosella Willie was our highest plus-minus kid. Those kids do a big job, and they don't always get the praise, but we talk a lot about it. You're not here for a stat line. That's not where your message is. And I think that's just echoed throughout our entire circle. And when it's really bought into, you can do some really, really fun things.
Again, yes, you and I have talked about it, and I trust me, as one behind the scenes, it is gut-wrenching sometimes to look at a player and go, well, they scored all these points. You think they're going, yeah, but this other person.
And they win all these games by 50 points. They're on the court for
I get it.
400 minutes longer than the next kid. But I wouldn't want your job either, Dave, so I'll stay in my seat.
No one wants my job. Let's be honest. It's dumb guy who sits in a studio yammering and thinking.
I like breakfast too much. Apparently you don't eat breakfast either.
I enjoy my breakfast when I sit down and have it. Speaking of which,
there it is.
Maybe the next commercial break. Anna, curious, before I let you go, what is it about Stout? What is it about this program? Coach is right here, but don't worry, it's a safe space. You can also be honest with us. What is it about this Menominee, for starters, that attracted you and you wanted to become a Blue Devil?
Yeah, for sure. I think coming here, 2020, it was all the people. I came in, we were bottom of the conference, it's hard to have a vision of what it can look like in the future in that moment. But I think if you surround yourself with the right people, great things can happen. And, making it to the Final Four is all of our dreams. And we're super happy for the experience. And, we're just fighting for any chance we can get to stay together.
Yeah. You're staying together the longest possible right now in this tournament. It's working out nicely. Again, number 1 NYU ahead of you, but as we've already seen in this tournament, that number doesn't matter, Coach, and you've already said it doesn't matter internally either. Appreciate the time. Curious, Coach, what are the plans to get to Salem? What are your expectations?
Yeah, we're excited. I just got off actually right before this conference or the call with the committee and just kind of getting the lay of the land. And I think it'll be a beautifully ran team or tournament that's going to be just highlighting our student athletes and their experience, and really excited to be a part of it. I think, like Anna said, this is what you dream about as a little kid, like those Blue Dot games, those Final Four environments. This is some of why you decide to play college basketball. This is the big stage. And I think it's just really cool when you see what kids sacrifice and just commit to something that's bigger than themselves to be rewarded in this way. So as a coach, I'm just excited to have the best seat in the house to watch them go do what they're ready to do.
I am looking forward to being in Fort Wayne. The arena does an amazing job with the event, but I will admit I'm jealous you're getting to go to Roanoke Valley. The entire area does an amazing event there.
Yeah.
You will thoroughly enjoy it, I assure you, and the arena is pretty top-notch for the event, too. Have fun. Good luck. Thank you for your time today. I know you're busy as it is, so I appreciate the time you gave us. We do have a tradition on the show that we always give the guest the final word, and I know you're not familiar with that, so I'll let Coach go first.
She's probably betting a final word.
Well, you two choose. Both of you are going in some order, but final thoughts for those who might be tuned in.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. I want to give a huge shout out to Scranton University. Made everything feel super first class, and, super excited for this opportunity this weekend. And yeah, I appreciate you having us on.
Well said. Nice of you to say that as well. Hannah.
Yeah, I think my last word would just be the environment that these people created. And Dave, you're part of this. Just like, this is a big deal. And I said it earlier, but you can count all the teams left on one hand. And it is really special to watch these girls, because I think unless you're in it, you don't know exactly what it's like to be a college athlete. And what they do is really, really hard. And winning is really, really hard. And so I think just being able to highlight that and put on an event the way we do, and Dave, give the coverage that you do, is a big deal for these guys and for our sport and for women's athletics in general. And we're just really honored to have our name in this mix and be out on a stage that we feel like we deserve to be on. So thanks again, Dave, and go Blue Devils.
I appreciate it. By the way, you and I were talking about jerseys earlier. On your camera shot, I have a feeling you want yours here.
Yeah. No offense.
On the camera shot on broadcast, she wants it. Hold on. Right about here. Right about here is where she wants her jersey. We'll talk about that off air. Hey, take care. Safe travels. Good luck. And I look forward to catching up with the program down the road. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out as well. And congratulations. Tremendous tournament run. And at least enjoy that no matter what happens this weekend.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Take care. Anna Munch and Hannah Iverson joining us from UW Stout. They are heading off to the Roanoke Valley to take on the Violets of NYU in the national semis. And as she mentioned, Oshkosh on the other side, Wisconsin representing in the Final Four. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from Smith on their press conference. We'll also hear from a couple other press conferences. And still ahead, we actually will go to Oshkosh, but we won't talk to their women's coach. Matt Lewis will join us, talk about what Brad Fisher and Pat Yuckham and what makes them tick. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with so much more ahead.
Division III men's and women's basketball players build skills and characteristics that set themselves up to win in life. How do they translate those skills when the ball stops bouncing? They join Dream Team, the network built by and for athletes who want to leverage their competitive advantage in careers and business. Find your post-basketball calling, your next team, and learn how to win big at DreamTeamWins.com. That's DreamTeamWins.com. We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I believe sportsmanship is a mutual admiration and respect for your fellow competitors. We all go through a lot to reach the point where we compete against one another. It's important to realize that. So once we're finally on the field or on the court or on the starting block, we look at each other as fellow human beings and not just competitors. Being able to recognize the hard work that other athletes are putting in creates a more positive and inclusive environment.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Comprehensive learning is being able to adapt to experiences and apply the things that I learned. Being an athlete and juggling academics helped me grow as a person, and things that I've learned, I was able to apply it in another field, putting them into everyday life. Developing comprehensive learning helped me prioritize certain things to make sure I get to where I want to be.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
For the love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this midday edition. It is past 12 o'clock on the East Coast. It's coming up. It's past 11 on the Central, and appreciate you all taking time. Got a busy day ahead of me for myself. Have a gig later this evening, or this afternoon, in spring sports, plus a lot of stuff going on in my other world. We're in a week's time. I'll already be in a ballpark, which is just not normal. And tomorrow we have another gig, so we had to sneak this one in the middle of the day. When it comes to the final Hoopsville, I was hoping to sneak one in next week. The reality is it's not going to be logistically possible. I'm going to be insane. Monday would be where I'd normally like to put it, but I got to be in a ballpark, and I have meetings. It's going to be a 12, 14-hour day for me. Tuesday would be the second option. We've done that on numerous occasions. I'm likely going to be a ballpark again for a shorter bit, and I have more meetings, and I have huge projects. And the Jostens finalists have been announced. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. And they're going to be announced midweek next week. We love having them on this program. And in all fairness to them, I want to do that with video. I can't, with my logistics, put two video shows together for the finale of the season. So what I'm trying to drive at is next Tuesday, following Tuesday, 2 weeks from tomorrow, I've got an opening, weather permitting. Better not rain in Baltimore on that Monday. Then we'll put the show in the middle of the afternoon on Tuesday of the following week. So that is, I think, April 1. It's not an April Fool's joke, ironically enough. I think it's April 1 we're talking about. I'll confirm that here in a minute. That'll be where our finale will run. We'll hear from both champions. Let's see here. Yeah, April 1. We'll hear from both champs. We will hear from the Jostens winners, and we'll recap the season with whomever. That will allow us to be able to get that into the program on that day. So I know it's a little bit different. It's a little bit of a wait. We are used to 10 days minimum between Division III championships and opening day for me in my next job that takes a ton of time. This year, I'm literally coming home Sunday and I'm in a ballpark Monday. Opening day is a handful of days later, and I've got huge projects that I'm responsible for. So it's just not going to work next week as much as I'd like to. I've also got other things that are piling up on my to-do list. So Tuesday, April 1, we will wrap up the Division III season with the Hoopsville finale. Most likely about a 1 p.m. show that day is where I'm aiming. We'll play with it. We'll see where it gets us. Maybe it's an evening show. I don't know. But right now I'm aiming for afternoon. So there you go. There's no way I could invite guests from every single program on the show. There are a few, interesting enough, in the final 8 teams that we haven't had on this show in some capacity or got on today. Smith women are one of those. They were, of course, up at Bowdoin and got past Bowdoin in the Sweet 16, and then got past a very good Gustavus Adolphus team in the Elite Eight. Gordon Mann was up in Brunswick, Maine, and he got a chance to talk to them in their post game. And so we felt it was probably would make a lot of sense to air that here, so you get a chance to hear that post-game press conference with Coach Lynn Hersey and her squad up again in Brunswick.
Coach, if you can just start off with some thoughts about the game today.
Yeah, obviously just a great team we played today. Well coached, a lot of seniors, a lot of veteran players in their program, and just we have a lot of respect, for well coached and really gritty players, and this whole weekend we were faced with that, which really, it's about bringing out the best in each other, and I think both games were high-level basketball, and I think that's what playing in NCAA Tournament's about. So hats off to them. Congratulate them on a stellar season. And in terms of our team, I just have such gratitude for this group. We came in losing 68% of our offense and over 50% of our rebounding and assists and steals from last year, which is a lot to replace. And this group just quickly dug into making sure they were connected and understood their roles and had the habits that it takes to get to this level. And I'm just super impressed by all of them and excited for the journey that we have ahead of us.
This one mistake is stopping you from losing weight.
If you want to drop this, start eating more of these.
Jack and they went inside early. Their team that shoots 17 threes a game. They took 2 in the first half. So they were clearly, that's partially for defense, but they were going inside. You were equal to the challenge. Were you talking about what that was like? I imagine that you're kind of used to that. Teams attacking inside often on you guys?
I think initially, a smaller post, so I think that's kind of a matchup that we like to go to, but we have such a system in place on how to negate that, and working with the team with strategies on what I do, what the help side can do to kind of force those passes away. And I think they did a great job of getting the ball in, and we were able to adjust and see what they were working off of, what they got, and we made those adjustments throughout the game. So I think we just have really good strategies in place that we've been working on since the beginning of this season that's allowed us to be so good at the strategies on what I do.
Coach, there's a really key moment when Kawicki for them hits a 2. You go down and you go to Jasmine and she scores and she gets the foul. It's Kawicki's 3rd or 4th. Talk about it.
Yeah, we felt like our post did pretty well inside. They had good looks, good quality looks. They were not doubling or digging, so they had space to operate. Our posts are good when they have some space to operate as well. And Ella, face up, takes it off the bounce. Jazzy plays back to that. She lets the point go around the rim. She shifts rotations. She gives players to play. Gives us our guys good looks from a different point of attack on the court. So she's kind of does it all. So her ability to be able to defend, but also she creates a lot of offense for us. And Ella, it isn't always her putting it out in the hoop. It's her ability to shift defense and allow us to create better shooting shots for our guards. It just impacts the game all over every portion. That's what a senior does. She's kind of doing that. That's what a starter in our program does. And that's part of her role. And she really embraced it tonight. I'm super proud of her.
Allie, 22 points. You've been conference What does this feel?
This is an automatic feeling. I mean, ever since I came here, this is what I was looking for. Getting to the Final Four and being able to live through these moments.
Hey, you came from Haverford. It's not a real successful program, we'll say. Tell me about the story about how you got there. It's on your it's on the website where you mentioned there's a coaching program. How'd you find your way to Smith?
Yeah, I reached out going into my senior year at Haverford. because I knew I wanted to keep playing in my 5th year. And I was reaching out to all the coaches I had been in contact with the first time around recruiting, and Coach got me on a visit that summer, and I committed that day. She told me. I mean, the program was just absolutely amazing. Everything she told me I would get to experience, I've experienced. And then they have a great MET program that I was able to be a part of.
Coach, what do you remember about from the first time you recruited Natalie?
Yeah. You know, this has happened to me a couple times. To be honest.
I noticed that.
But I don't know. You know, it's one of those things where life's kind of funny, right? Like, you know, when it's meant to be that you come together and, you know, take a journey together, it's going to happen. And we're just so utterly blessed and grateful that, you know, Allie wanted to come be a part of this. And she's been a huge influence, not only as a player, and obviously she's an elite player, but how she transitioned into our program, how she elevated our program, how she accepted our culture, and really, I think it almost ignited her to a different level. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, you need special people in your life, and they come in at different times, and, you know, here's Allie, and it's just was a big lift for our whole team.
You had Sophia Rosa come in, I think, from Tufts the year before.
Yep.
You are really good at integrating these players who are really good elsewhere with very different styles into your program. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's each year, it's like figuring out, you know, what is a puzzle, right? And it's like figuring out how you're going to maximize, you know, your team. And you've got to figure that out, and then you got to get everyone to buy into that, right? And I think every coach is trying to do that. It's the experience of being in the NCAA tournament has been really helpful for me. You know, these games we take our preparation really seriously, but we learn a lot while we're doing it, right? It's you know, sort of an opportunity for us to really grow as a coaching staff and really dive into another elite coach's mind and see how they run the game and how they utilize their strategies, and then you have to come up with all the counters. And so, you know, I think there's that, you know, sort of experience has really pushed me personally to, you know, grow myself as a strategist. And, you know, that's a fun part of the game for me. I really enjoy that part. And my staff's elite at doing it. So, and then obviously it's the execution on the court, right? I mean, you're only as good as your players and what they're able to execute throughout 40 minutes. So, you know, really just feeling very grateful and fortunate today to be returning to the Final Four for the 3rd time in a row. You know, 3 very different teams. You know, it's a credit to Smith, the community, these players, the belief that, you know, we don't want to be just good. We want to be the greatest team we can be each year. And their drive is, you know, something I will remember for my lifetime.
I have just 2 more. You touched on something last night when Adam Phelps was the new head coach for Bowdoin. She said,
using the right weight matters. The Body Pod lets you easily understand what is the fastest way to reach your health and fitness goals. At an accuracy of 98%, you can measure 45 different body metrics and understand which areas you need to work on. Easily see if you're losing the right weight or if you're gaining muscle. Get powerful insights to understand how different diets and daily habits impact your overall health. Make smarter health choices today. The Body Pod by Hume.
I want my money back for buying 3 of these. Don't buy another flashlight until you've seen what this new headlamp can do. This U.S. Army engineer is bringing military technology to the public, and he's destroying the $300 billion flashlight industry in the process. His invention is 20 times more powerful than a traditional headlamp, while being ultra lightweight and energy efficient. It keeps everyone safe outside in the dark. Here's how the story began a few months ago. Robert Snipes is a 50-year-old Army engineer and marathon runner. He goes for a run 3 times a week, usually after work. But on a dark evening last winter, tragedy struck. The old headlamp he was using ended up getting a dead battery. When a driver didn't notice Robert due to poor visibility, he missed him by an inch. However, during the evasive maneuver,
people don't appreciate how hard it is to go back after you've had success. And every year, you've gone one step farther, from Sweet 16 to Final Four to national championship game. How hard was it to come back every year off of that off season and put it behind you and do it again? I'm always impressed by teams who fall short and come back and go even farther the next year.
Yeah, I'm going to say that, you know, a lot of it is our mindset. You know, it's from day one. It's, you know, understanding what the goals are. We're not going to not talk about the national championship. Like, we talk about it all the time, right? Because I'm a big believer that you have to live in the goals. You have to live in the dream. You have to live in that space in order for it to be a reality for your team. So, you know, that was the goal. You know, that was the first thing we talked about. And, you know, I think you have to set where you want to go, and then you got to figure out how you work toward getting there. So we're fortunate to be headed back. You know, we were 10 points short last year. It's going to be a great pod. It's going to be 4 amazing teams. We have a lot of work to do to get ready. But I think this is a very battle-tested program, you know, who's been there, who understands the routine of it. And I like our chances due to the experience that we have. I mean, we have players on our team who've only been to a Final Four. They don't know anything else, right? So, I mean, that's sort of like a hidden superpower that we're going to have to really maximize to do what we want to do down there.
And my last question actually was for you, Jasmine, because you've been on those teams that have gone to the Final Four. You and Jane, I think, are the 2 holdovers. What has that been like? Every year you come in off the off season, having had the success, you got to put it behind you, and you start, you know, the old cliche 0-0, and you're whatever running wind sprints in September or whatever that is. What has that been like?
I think the biggest thing is it's never, like, we don't really ever put it behind us. It's kind of the fuel that gets us going through that, like, off season, through those grinds where it's just practice before the games. I think we've always just been hungry for something more. We want that next step, and I think that's what pushed us, and that's kind of the mindset that we have throughout the team. So every time that we step on the court, we know, yes, that's where we got last season, and that's amazing, but we know we want more, and we know we can do more each time. And that's just been the mindset from since I've been here first year to now. So I think it's always just, we want more. We want it all, and we're just going to work as hard as we can to get there.
Well, good luck next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck.
Apologize for the ads that ran in the middle of that. That was none intended. I'm on the wrong YouTube account. I've got multiple YouTube accounts, folks, for multiple reasons, and I forgot totally that would screw things up in that process because, well, I need to be on one and I was on the other. And I need to be on the other because I need to be on that today. But anyway, digress. Great to hear from Smith on that. Later in the show, we'll try and bring you Wesleyan and Trinity's. If not, we have linked to every press conference we could find from the Elite Eight weekend on our show page. There were 3 we cannot find publicly. If someone knows where they are, we'll add them to our mix so you can all hear from them. In the meantime, at lacrosse, Pat Coleman was there, and he got a chance to talk with Pat Yuckham after Wash U clinched their first bid to the Final Four since 2009, I believe, if memory serves. That's what I tweeted out. I hope I'm right. Pat Coleman sat with Pat to talk. Well, there you go. Pat and Pat. Coleman sat with Yuckham to talk about the Bears getting to the Final Four.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, and we're here at Mitchell Hall in La Crosse, Wisconsin, on the campus of the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, with Wash U men's basketball coach Pat Yuckham. His team victorious here in the sectional final, the national quarterfinals, the Elite Eight, whatever you want to call it, with an 80-66 win over UW-La Crosse. Getting back to the Final Four. This is not your first Final Four, and it's not Wash U's first Final Four, but it's been a hot minute for Wash U, maybe less so for you.
Yeah, it's I think once you make it, and I was fortunate to have a great group at Oshkosh that to be part of, and you just recognize how hard it is to get back. I mean, you have to have a really good team, and you have to get a little lucky too along the way. And I don't, so just really, I'm just really thankful and grateful for our guys and just our the journey we've had together so far. And I think the best part is I know we have another practice. We have more time with this group, and I think we've got better basketball coming. It's going to have to be with our next opponent, but just really trying to soak in the moment and just be really thankful for this opportunity with a great group.
Yeah, and you get to take this guy home to be in your trophy case, where I know there are similar trophies, you know, and then the opportunity to perhaps add one more trophy out of this. One UAA team will do this. I assume Dave has already mentioned this, so we'll skip the particulars about the UAA and the NESCAC in this Final Four. But, you know, talk about that a little bit. You know, obviously, UAA, one of the great conferences, one of the power conferences in Division III, and the NCAA Power Index year certainly brought power conferences to the fore, whether that was part of it or, you know, part of the NPI or not. That's what happened. Tell us a little bit about playing in the UAA.
Well, first of all, it's an incredible league. I think we, as coaches in our league, and I know the athletes in the league, we take great pride in, we compete like crazy when we're on the floor or on the field or between the lines. But I think we also appreciate just the unique nature of it. And there is a unique camaraderie that exists. And I know we were on a text chain with, you know, the coaches that got in, the four of us at the start of the tournament. And just, you know, I think that's a really special thing. And even today with Jason at Emory and David at NYU, you know, I wanted to see all three of us get through.
That came very close to happening.
Yeah, it did. But it felt like going through a 14-game juggernaut of a UA. It felt like a 14-round battle, and I think that's one of the beauties of playing in a league of this caliber, is you're just so tested, right? And we didn't go through, and not everything went great for us always. But we realized the caliber of competition, and I think when you embrace the opportunities for growth, we talk about, like, we win and we learn. If the result doesn't go in our favor, what can we extract from that? And with kind of a growth mindset, and we were fortunate enough to, get in the tournament and host some games and get rolling, and then come to lacrosse and a great sectional with 4 great teams, and just really proud of our guys. This was a heck of a pod, and for us to get through speaks a lot volumes about the quality of our guys.
25-6, 23-6. That makes more sense. Right number of games. And of course, there was a stretch where you guys even lost 3 consecutive games. What was going wrong for you guys? How did it get fixed? How have you seen that kind of rectify itself over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think I've now done this for a while, and as I think back to even the most special season we had, I think my Oshkosh team that got to the national championship game, we went through a stretch there where we lost some games. We didn't win the conference tournament, and but again, if you embrace that and look for that, I mean, if you're playing in the WIAC or the UAA, like, somebody's going to lose. A really good team's going to lose on a Sunday. Yeah. And in that 3-game stretch, 2 of those games were to NYU, who arguably has had as good a season as anybody, and so I really laud, I credit our guys. They stay really even keeled. They didn't. When we're going through that, we're trying to extract themes, but there's a lot of trust and belief. There's a belief in our foundation, belief in our pillars, belief in what our identity is, and hey, it was an opportunity for us we got exposed on some things, and let's go back and let's really drill down. And I think without that experience, we're probably not sitting here having this conversation with this thing right next to me.
Right. Talk about your guys not getting rattled. I was watching you guys watch the final minutes, final seconds of the Friday night Sweet 16 game, where UW La Crosse eliminated Illinois Wesleyan, knocked them out of the tournament in front of a pretty crazy crowd, a high energy crowd, lots of people here in the room, and very similar crowd tonight. We're recording this obviously on Saturday night, just under 1,200 people here, making all sorts of noise. Tell me a little bit about how your guys responded to that.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Like, the opportunity. We have a bunch of really competitive guys. And to be in an environment, and sometimes it's really nice to be in a hostile environment. Yeah. It's nothing better. That's what an Elite 8 game should feel like. Yeah. If it can't be in St. Louis in front of our fans, we want to be somewhere where it's all their fans. Yeah. And
you don't want to be on a neutral floor somewhere. I hear a lot of good things about the neutral floor concept.
I mean, we'd play on the moon, I guess, if that's where the game was. But it was really, and congratulations to La Crosse and their season, incredible, and their community really coming out in droves and supporting them. Yeah. You're right, both Friday night and then Saturday night tonight was a great, again, embodied all the best things about Division III. two really good teams going at it, and I think our guys really enjoyed just playing, and they're very focused group, and I think they were able to, use that energy and try to maybe quiet the energy if you could, which you can do when you're the road team.
Yeah.
But it was a great atmosphere, and again, just a really special night and some great memories.
Just to run down some of the stats from the Saturday night game. Drake Kinsfather with 31 points and 16 rebounds. Every time I look at it in my head and then try to say it out loud, I'm super impressed. But tell me a little bit about having Yogi Olaf back over the course of the past several weeks. So first off, is this 100%? I know that Hayden Doyle is campaigning for Yogi to play a little more. Tell us a little bit about what he's been through and where he's at right now.
Yeah, and first of all, Drake special tonight, and I think that's, especially get into deep in these in the playoffs and in the tournament, the special players rise up, and he's certainly that. That is a ridiculous line, and so we need every bit of it tonight. And then Yogi is, he's had a really, just from a health perspective, a really challenging year. But I'll say this about the young man. He's found ways to still impact his team even when he wasn't playing on the floor.
Okay.
Being vocal on the bench. He had a broken wrist at one juncture that he was out for, but he was able to still condition and run, so he used it to get in better condition. And then unfortunately, he got mono, and that set him back another 4 or 5 weeks. And so that recovery because he couldn't do anything. And so, I'd say he was on a little bit of a minute restriction as we've ramped him back up. But, the beauty of now, this is the third week now he's been able, his strength is certainly coming back, he can from last week to this week. And, he adds another dimension for us. So excited to have another week for him to get stronger, and because we're going to need him. We're going to need him.
Has Mark Edwards ever made the Sean Wallace comparison? Because that's the first thing that came to my mind for those of us who were around in 2007, 8, 9.
Yeah, well, Sean is a great, just very engaged in our program. And I actually recruited Sean at a different school.
Okay.
Unsuccessfully, of course. He ended up having an incredible career and obviously winning a couple national championships at WashU.
Did all right.
Yeah.
But but he was a guy who was hurt, right? And I'm trying to draw the very specific comparison to his year on the bench and kind of coaching those guys up.
Yeah. And I actually coached against that team when I was at Co. And right after he got injured.
Oh, man. Yeah, now we're all getting old now.
Yeah, I know. Dating myself. The gray hair also probably suggests that. But yeah, I think, again, we talk about, because we've had Kyle Beaton, who was a really important piece of our team last year, tore his ACL in summer. He's sat all year. He's got very specific. He's been a coach this year as he's done his rehab. And, we just, after, when we're cutting down the net, we just, I know it kills him that he's not out there playing, but he's had such an important role and just a different kind of role. And Yogi found ways. I mean, he's a point guard, right? So he sees the game at a level that most don't. He'll be chirping. He was chirping my ear about a play call or an adjustment, and I love that they care so much. I watch a ton of film. Those guys watch. I mean, he shot me a video last night. He was on Synergy and looking at stuff and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Like, I mean, I'm really blessed to have guys that care that much, that are that passionate about. The game of basketball, their team, and just helping us find ways to have success. So,
yeah, I don't need you to break that too specifically down for me, but was he talking about something he saw in UW lacrosse or something that you guys did last night that he thought would be successful today?
Yeah, I think he was looking ahead to lacrosse, our next opponent, and that wasn't. We were so focused. I was focused on Wisconsin Lutheran all week long. My assistants were. Obviously scouting ahead at the other two teams.
For good reason. They were pretty good.
They very, very, very good. What a great team. What a great career those guys have had.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't really dive in with our team until this morning with our first film session. But they obviously got to watch last night, got some insights. When he went back to the hotel, a bunch of them got together and started pulling up Synergy clips and diving in. And again, he's a coach on the floor. So it's just already kind of giving suggestions. Here's what I'm thinking on this. And it's great that already that processing is starting ahead of time. It just allowed us to kind of hit the ground running because it was heck of a turnaround. You're playing, back-to-back nights.
People talk about high IQ, high basketball IQ. When you have UAA and NESCAC teams in the Final Four, you could say that just about probably all sorts of sets of IQ. So I totally understand the, what am I trying to say? The desire to go break stuff down before in the moments that you have. You were talking in the post-game news conference about this year's senior class, and then being the last ones who got to play with Justin Hardy. A good portion of your guys have a different recollection, or any of a number of ways to describe it. Tell us a little bit about how Justin Hardy's legacy affects you guys at WashU right now.
It is. I think it's continuing to evolve and grow, and I think we've all kind of, those of us that had the good fortune of being with Justin, experiencing that, feel like we have a responsibility. Certainly with he's our guy, and it's very personal for our program, and he certainly he's impacted people well beyond our team, but man, he's our guy. And Hayden and Kyle and Drake, they got to witness kind of a miracle, this incredible thing, that this force of nature that's Justin. And it doesn't come up every single day, but there's a lot of times where there's a reference point, or there's just because we knew Justin was so open. We knew how in every situation what he would say, what he'd expect, and which is beautiful and powerful, because we can harken back on that sometimes. And I know he's really with those three guys in particular, with this team, they've really, they carry him with, and he really had a strong bond, Justin, with his teammates. Those were his freshmen, and and Justin and Hayden, he kind of passed the mantle. He knew Hayden was special as a leader and had a lot of the same attributes that Justin had, and so he kind of, some of our last interactions, he kind of passed that torch very clearly to Hayden, which I thought, man, that's a heavy thing
to put on a young guy, right?
But Hayden has not only accepted that, has taken it and ran with it, and he's where it's taken him well beyond basketball. Basketball's minuscule in terms of, I think, how that has impacted his life and will continue. And I think we all, again, share that, feel that responsibility, that awesome responsibility to, we all, I'm wearing, Hardy Strong shirt, it's just, it's not that big a deal, but it's just like, he's always there with us. And I like to think, sometimes we're playing 6-on-5. We got him out there with us.
All right. We're talking with Pat Yuckham, the head coach of the Bears of WashU. His team victorious against UW La Crosse, 80-66 here in the Elite Eight. We're talking with him on Hoopsville. Dave is being very patient back in the studio. Dave should be thankful that you could hear my audio, because we know that is not always the case. Let me talk a little bit more about Hayden. Obviously, we only see the stuff on the floor, but I see him being a very vocal, demonstrative, gesticulating leader on the floor, in timeouts. Tell me a little bit more about him as a shooter.
He impacts our team in winning in myriad ways beyond just what his shooting percentage is. And, if you come into our gym any day, it's really been any day since he showed up on our campus, quite honestly. He has the most energy, and it becomes contagious. And when you're, especially as he's grown into a true leader in our program, everyone kind of follows, that's just the standard. We're going to care so much. We're big on just our energy and our juice all the time, because if you don't have that, then why are we doing this, right? And he is just encapsulates that, brings it every single day, which is really hard to do. Even though it's maybe kind of natural with him, it's still really hard, because there's days he's not feeling great, or he's got all this stuff going on, just life stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you what about tonight's game. They have a really, really good player. Lacrosse does, number 15, Greiger, who was really a hard cover and a really
30 plus points tonight. Yeah.
And we've had some really good defenders who are long. We thought we could bother him, and he was getting to his spots. And at some point he just said, "Coach, I got him." And I thought there was a stretch there where he really just he is as competitive as anyone I've ever been around, you know. And I think Justin noticed that right away with him. Justin's like, give me Hayden on my team and any other 3 guys, and we're going to win. And he was probably right. And so there's, you know, his rebounding, his leadership, his you know, things that maybe don't always show up in that stat sheet. And then he's the guy that they're game planning around. So, you know, he's going to have their best defender.
Right, he's going to get some attention.
He's going to get some attention and some tough shots. And he's, you know, been incredible this year. But I think that's a hallmark of a really good team, that you know, we can move on and advance, and him maybe at least statistically not have his best game. Because we've got other players, and that's the definition of a really good team, is different ways that you can win games, and I think this group has that.
I don't know how much of our audience is in their early 50s, like this guy, like that guy, but you were talking about at this point in your career, or this point in your life, I guess, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, I'll let you talk about it in a second here, but just taking a moment to soak this in a way that, you know, an 18, 19, 21-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 32-year-old or even maybe a 38-year-old can't do. And I was wondering if you have more ways to put that into words to kind of talk about how that affects people like us. Can I say us?
Absolutely. I think we're contemporaries, Pat. Yeah. The Pats are contemporaries. Yeah. Again, I've had the great fortune to be a head coach now for, I don't know how many years, quite a while, and incredible teams at 3 great universities, Oshkosh, and now WashU. Yeah. And it's really hard. I've had some great teams that haven't got to the tournament or have gotten beat in the first round, or we had a team that, you know, my last team at Oshkosh, who lost a heartbreaker in the national championship game. Yep. And then since I've been at WashU, we've had some great teams. One, the 2020 team that was one of the 16 teams that weren't able to finish the tournament, and 5 seniors who still to this day, when I see them, they talk about how their career ended in the middle of practice in a shell drill, you know? Wow. And we did vow at that time with that group, like, we're going to finish the job, you know, and we're going to, and it's, you know, that was 5 years ago. And so it's really hard and to do. And so I try to, you know, just to be a little more effective and help our guys too. Like, just take a second, and they do a pretty darn good job. I'll say that about our group, about being very present and kind of blocking out some of the noisy stuff, and just like, man, this is, because this time goes really, really fast. And as a basketball player, to be able to climb a Werner ladder. I told you this on the floor. First young man who went up to cut, he goes, "Coach, I'm not sure how to do this." So I was giving I was going, well, you got to, you know, step this, step that. And I'm like, no, that's a lesson I love giving. I love teaching that part. And so for those guys just to have that, to climb a ladder, cut down a net, holy mackerel, is that pretty special. You've shared this with me before about, you know, maybe a half hour ago, but now the thought I had just now is that someday some nurse or some obstetrician is going to give this young man a very similar set of instructions about where to snip, right? You snip between the clamps if you get to cut an umbilical cord. All right, I may have taken that in a very strange direction, but we'll end in a more normal way. Of course, on Hoopsville, the guest has the final word. Any final thoughts that you want to share with the Hoopsville audience today? Well, I like to always, when I get this opportunity to with this question, I guess, again, having been in Division III basketball my whole life as a player and as a coach, to see just the identity of Division III continue to get stronger and stronger. And I think, Pat, you've had a huge part of that. And Dave and the growing group of Division III, the DataCast guys, and Bob, and there's, I don't want to leave anybody out.
Ryan Whitnable, I'll throw in there.
Ryan, I met Ryan in Atlanta this year. Yeah. It is just awesome. Yeah. And I appreciate what you guys, I know this, I don't know how much of it's passion project versus, you know, okay. But boy, the beneficiaries are all of us in the community. And so thank you, and thank you all those who contribute, because it seems like it's just building, it's getting stronger. And we have some more mediums that we can share this, you know, more easily, more readily accessible. And it's amazing how our parents of our program, of our players, they're paying attention. Like, this is part of their lexicon, their vocabulary. Yeah. We had one of our freshman parents tonight had a bright green D3 Hoops sweatshirt today.
Nice, really?
I think he walked in the St. Patrick's Day parade in lacrosse.
Okay.
But I don't know where he bought that, but so someone's been pushing some merch out there. But so thank you, and just love being part of the Division III, and specifically the Division III basketball community.
I appreciate that, and on behalf of Dave, appreciate you saying that. Before I send it back to Dave, I want to thank the folks here at UW La Crosse for letting us take over the floor for another half hour, long after the game is done, long after the nets have been cut, to let us do this. That's Pat Yuckham, the head coach of the WashU Bears. His team go into the Division III Final Four. We'll be back with more on Hoopsville in just a moment.
Actually, we'll come back here real quick just to wrap up. Great words from Pat Yuckham. Appreciate his time. Appreciate Pat Coleman putting that all together for us. We'll take another break. When we come back, a man who knows Pat Yuckham pretty well and Brad Fisher pretty darn well. We will talk. Let me try that again. Brad Fisher. Yeah, I said that right. We'll talk to Matt Lewis coming up from Oshkosh about what makes those two programs click. Unique take we'll talk a few minutes about as we wrap up Hoopsville. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
The well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
For the love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. As we head into our final block of the show, if you've got questions for us, you're welcome to try and email us, hoopsville at d3sports.com. I've got the email up and running. You can also interact with us on our social page, or on our simulcast, I should say. We are on YouTube and on Facebook. I did notice I haven't been checking those. That's my apologies, but we're there. You can stream, or you can ask questions. A reminder, we'll talk more about the Final Fours coming up here in a bit and what else you can expect at d3hoops.com. Like all region and all America teams will be announced here in the next 7 days. One of the more unique things that popped up on the radar this weekend was a tweet from Oshkosh's Matt Wilson, and it dawned on a few of us. Hat tip to Ryan Tips. That's a name of the past. Ryan Scott for flagging it for me and thinking, hey, Dave, yeah, he's right. This would be a great perspective. Remember, Matt Lewis was assistant coach under Pat Yuckham when he was at Oshkosh. He went on to Wash U and handed Lewis a championship caliber team, and Matt didn't screw that up. He's also been side by side with Brad Fisher at Oshkosh on the women's side and seen that program matriculate over the years, and he's friends with both coaches, and both coaches are in the Final Fours. And both coaches might be just a tad bit nervous about the upcoming segment because we're bringing Matt Lewis in to talk dirt, or just talk. One of the two. Matt Lewis joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline from Wisconsin, Oshkosh. First and foremost, Matt, thanks for finding time to join us and honestly not talk about your team, which is a rarity on this program.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I do have a lot of time this week as compared to the 2 gentlemen that you invited me on to discuss. So I'm definitely welcome any opportunity to come in and talk D3 hoops.
Man, I'm actually no shot at you. I'm actually amazed you're in your office right now. You've had some time to get away. I would have tried to find somewhere to hide.
Yeah.
No, good season by you all. It was a tough WIAC, as we all know. But again, you have this unique perspective because how long were you assistant under Yuckham for about 3 years, if memory serves?
6. So,
6.
Yeah. So Pat got hired in the summer of 2012, and Brad Fisher got hired that same summer, and then Pat hired.
That's right.
Pat hired me as his assistant. So I had the good fortune of being around Pat for 6 years, and then around Brad for the last 13 years.
I forgot that the two of them got hired in the same kind of time frame that Oshkosh opened up like that. Because, well, for starters, it feels like Brad's been there much longer, and that's just because of the programming that he's established there. And the transition between Yuckham and yourself was so smooth and so almost as if Yuckham hadn't left, if that makes any sense, that you forget how long you've been there. And I remember when I was looking up your tenure, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. These guys have been there longer than I thought. COVID had something to do with that as well. So, yeah, you've had this great perspective on the two of them, and for 6 years seeing them work side by side. What's that been like to be in the middle of that dynamic duo?
One is Brad, and I think a big reason why you remember both those guys so well is they're both very memorable in everything they do. Like Brad has established a program that is truly remarkable. I mean, they've won really since they got here in 2012. They've won 20 games every year that they've had more than 20 games, which is 12 straight seasons, minus the COVID year. And they just do it year after year. The pieces change, but the women that he brings into this program are truly remarkable. And so they just get it done year after year after year. And, whatever Brad does on the other side of these cinder block walls, the walls aren't quite thick enough where I can't, not hear everything. I get a little snippet here and there. And man, can he really coach. Brad is just incredible at what he does and the program that he's built. And, Pat, you probably remember Pat more than me because Pat's just better looking than I am. So, he's,
no, come on.
And he is, similar, all jokes aside, he's very similar to Brad. And so it's just a really cool piece that they got here together in 2012. And they each do it in their own way. But they are both very good at building a program, connecting with young people in the recruiting process, getting them into their programs, and really getting those pieces to fit in the right places and build great relationships with those kids along the way. There's a lot of similarities between the two. There really are. And I think you see that in the success that they have year in and year out.
What did you learn under Yuckum as an assistant that was so beneficial, especially when you took over, that you're still kind of seeing, as one who knows what to look for, still seeing Pat nowadays and with this program he's got now at WashU?
He really is one of the best people I've been around. He really can communicate with anybody that he steps in front of. He can connect with those people in a genuine fashion, whether it's a recruit, a family, somebody on campus. And you see him, Oshkosh and WashU, while both being incredible places, Oshkosh is a different place. We've got different people you got to connect with here, and WashU is a different place. And so wherever he goes, he finds a way to connect with those people on the campus, in the community, in his locker room. And so that's probably the biggest thing I took away from Pat, other than just learning the game of basketball at a really high level and, how much work has to go into it. Like, I guarantee a Saturday night he slept probably 2 hours after winning the sectional to go to the Final Four. And when they fly out tomorrow, it wouldn't surprise me if he slept more than 3 to 4 hours any of these nights. Like, he works really hard, but he does it all while connecting with those people at an incredibly high level. And so I'd say that's the biggest thing that I see in him still doing at WashU.
Quickly going back, you made a comment about Pat being a better looker. You've got a shoe and suit game, sir, that is, from what I don't know but others tell me, is on point. So I'm not gonna fall for this Pat is better looking than me routine of yours. To Brad, obviously you've been around him on the other side of the wall essentially for the longest period of time, and you talk about what you picked up from him, but what you see from him. What have you picked up from him though? Have you taken anything that Brad does and added it to your tool belt?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we literally will walk into team meetings and discuss, what's going on in the women's program and things that they do, and some of the ways they approach scouting or practice planning, some of the ways their players attack, just the daily approach that you need to attack in the student athlete life balance. You can look for great examples everywhere, and we've got one 6 inches on the other side of this wall, and so we definitely take a lot of things. And again, I think one of the ways with him, they're successful year in and year out. Well, what do they do on a daily basis? And so we take those little small examples and we apply them directly to our team, at 3:30 that day if we see a good example of it. One, I think major thing out of Brad's program is they just get incredible buy-in from their kids, regardless of the amount of minutes, points, regardless of playing time. They get incredible buy-in. And one of those, I'm going to give one of their kids a shout out. I think Bridget Frolke, she was a huge piece to their team last year and for the year prior to that. And she unfortunately tore her ACL in the offseason. And so she's missed this entire year. And she'd be arguably one of the best players on this current women's basketball team. And she works out nonstop to get herself healthy and get back. Like, you see her walk in and get workouts in over at the rec center and get extra lifts in. And then you see her come into the office and set up practice. And there's a couple girls that are injured this year, and they formed a little group that really works to help their team, even though they can't do it on the court. And so whatever they're doing in their program, the women that are in it truly buy in and work incredibly hard for each other. And so I think that's rare and very special about that group.
That's a true mark of a true team, right? A true teammate. That it's not about yourself, it's about the others, and you contribute whatever way you can, no matter what your abilities may or may not be. And certainly something amazing me about Brad is, and I said this to the guys a few weeks ago, when it's an off year, it's an off year, right? But you can't count them out, and then it comes NCAA tournament time. The second weekend is expected. This is the first time he's gotten a program to the final weekend. The program in its history obviously has been there, but this is the first time he and his program have broken through that quarterfinal wall, as it were. What do you think's going on in their minds, and how are they preparing for this weekend ahead? Because it's a little extra basketball for them.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're very, very excited. I haven't seen Brad since they advanced. Admittedly, whenever I show up to one of their games, they lose, and I think. So
you're staying away from Salem, is what we're hearing.
I'm not going anywhere near that place. No, I'm not staying back away. But I've seen their assistant coaches in the office. Madeline's getting after it right now, and another fun dynamic is one of the players that Pat recruited to Oshkosh is currently married to Madeline, and they've got triplets. And so while it's awesome that they're preparing for the Final Four, I'm sure that the young man that we coached is going, like, I've got to manage triplets for another week. But it's pretty special for that program, and you've seen it. They've built it year after year after year, and now they crack through. And so I just think it's a testament to the people that they've brought through this place, for the last 13 years.
How triplets? Oh, Lord. I've got just 2 kids, and that's enough. Triplets all at once. Divide and conquer just doesn't work.
No.
Zone defense is screwed. How do you think Pat Yuckham and his crew will prepare for this, having seen him obviously up close with Oshkosh, but maybe not to this juncture just yet, but you know Pat well enough. How do you think they're preparing?
Yeah, he's got a unique way of getting guys very focused, very locked in, but being loose. We always had fun in these runs with him. So while it was obviously an incredibly big game come Thursday, we'd always show up there, and guys were always in a great place mentally and emotionally. And so I'm sure that they're going to work really hard this week. He's got really good assistants. I know that. I was actually in St. Louis for the first 2 rounds, and I met those guys, and they're a great group of guys, and I'm sure they're working their tails off, and so is Pat. But he'll get them to Thursday in a great place mentally and emotionally, and they'll give it everything they got.
Yeah, being a conference game makes the Thursday games so darn interesting. As the guy who's going to be on the broadcast, I don't even know where to start with that. Keys to the game. It's a conference game. Throw the keys out. It doesn't matter. All right, we've been nice, Matt. We've been kind. We've been gentle with the 2 men. And as you said, you haven't seen Brad, which tells us he's not in the office. So you've got a safety net in with him. And St. Louis is pretty far away from Oshkosh.
Yep.
There's no way that Pat can get to you in time. And I hope you don't have the phone anywhere near you. So now let's have some little fun with us. What is it about Pat that we don't know? Give us its quirks, maybe some superstitions, some edgy. What is it about Pat we don't know that makes him tick?
I would 2 things. I would say I'd be surprised if he's washed that Justin Hardy shirt that he wears underneath his quarter zip.
I would probably agree with you there.
Unless his wife has washed it, I'm guessing he hasn't. And he's pretty active over there, so oof. And then the other thing, and this is a shout out to all the assistants that have worked for Pat Yuckham. Pat is a close talker, and he will get right up in that airspace, just like he wants an on-ball defender to do. And so I give a big shout out to Pat with his interview that he just had. You guys got him seated at an appropriate distance there for that interview. But he's whatever distance he's at, he's really good at connecting with people. So more of a joke than anything there. But shout out to all the assistants that have worked for Yuckham.
There's a joke. You want a defender as close as possible to know what the underwear that the opponent is wearing. In your case, you probably know what Pat ate or drank last.
Yeah, that's oof. And I'm sure if it's like 2018, he'll be sharing a room with his assistants when we get to Fort Wayne. So,
Pat, have a room to yourself, sir. All right, same question though for Brad.
Brad's a little harder because I don't think Brad lets the world see his quirks.
No,
I will tell you this: he is big into the McDonald's app. He loves his little Diet Coke run at about 11 a.m. He's a big diet soda guy. So midway through the day, he'll walk in with a McDonald's bag, and if he walks in with that bag, he's ready to rock. He's really dialed in. So
he's in pretty darn good shape to be rocking McDonald's that often.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got something good going on there. So he does. I think he's got a little bit of self-restraint when he orders at McDonald's. Maybe he doesn't order that much. But and then I'll give you the other thing about Brad here is he is pretty animated on the sideline. And so if you get a chance to watch this weekend, he's a pretty fun watch on the sideline. Pat gets a lot of credit, but I think Brad gives him a run for his money.
No, you've got some. All right, I'm looking for that, and I'm also going to look to see if there's a McDonald's bag on the bench, just out of curiosity. All right, a final one. Your favorite story about Brad? Something that we might get a kick out of. Do you have one?
Favorite story about Brad? Oh,
and I don't care if it's PG or not. This is the internet.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's not crazy, but he's year after year. They've won a lot, right? And he's got a wall of stuff in there for recruits. And he literally just got like a box of nets sitting there. They're just ready to cut down the next ones and just kind of be prepared. And so it's nothing crazy, nothing quirky, but like they've built something where they're ready to compete year after year after year. And I've got a lot of respect for what Brad and his program do. And so I know that's not PG-13, but it's pretty remarkable what they do over there.
But maybe they bring their own nets with them
to
help give to the schools for wherever they have to cut them. Sorry about that. Here you go. All right, same with Pat, though. Yuckham, any fun little story? Remember, he's hundreds of miles away. He's not getting to you anytime soon.
Yeah, I just with Pat, I remember the first time I met him, and I think this is indicative of Pat just being a fun-loving guy. As we met for the first time at a Culver's, Brad and Pat had gotten hired, and Pat says, meet me in Milwaukee. We're going to go recruiting, and let's meet at a Culver's, and so we ate custard together. And I think if you ever talk to Pat, recruiting trip after a game, whatever, he always seems to find his way towards a Culver's or towards ice cream. And so I'm guessing that there was ice cream shared on the way home with the boys yesterday, and there'll be ice cream hopefully in Fort Wayne this weekend. Culver's.
All right. I'll keep that in mind when I see him next. Maybe we'll just start calling him Culver's instead of Pat Yuckham. I like it. Has your phone started blowing up yet from either of them?
No. I'm guessing they're more dialed in than I am right now, so nope, nobody's texted me. I think we're good to go.
Hey, I assume we'll see you in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, I will be there. I've got twins at home, and my wife thankfully has said, "Yep, go do it, and go be with your guys." So I'm going to come down on Thursday and bring a couple of our assistants likely and hang out. I do think it's remarkable what they do in Fort Wayne for these teams that are coming their way for the Final Four.
Well, you won a title there. I know that'll be something important to you too. But the fact that you have twins and a former player and women's assistant married have triplets, there's got to be something in the water there in Oshkosh, Matt.
Yeah, we've been campaigning, and it takes a long process in the UW system. We've been trying to get healthcare that includes childcare directly in our department, because we've got way too many kids in this department. It's good on some days, and man, so.
That's why it's not working out so quickly. They're all like, "Oh, we know this department. There's too many kids."
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. God bless Taylor Jansen. That's all I'm going to say. So.
Hey, how much of the Twins? Well said. How much of the Twins impacted the shoots and suits game for you?
I went away from suits for a little bit this year.
I noticed because I grabbed the picture. You're not in a suit. It stunned me.
Yeah. Well, in the morning you've got 3 minutes to get yourself ready, and I probably get 6 because my wife carries me. But it's still, you don't have enough time to pack a suit on a road game, and so for a lot of times we went with the quarter zip, and then we lost some games this year. I'm like, well, we got to change something up, and so we went back to a suit. So who knows what we'll do next year, but it's easier. This is easier.
Yeah, I get it. I totally do. I was looking for pictures from the D3 photography guys, and I had some pictures of you in a suit. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I went to another game. I'm like, wait, I'm grabbing this. He's in a darn quarter zip. I never see Matt like that. Hey, Matt, appreciate the insight. Talked to you more than I told you I would, but it was such good stuff. I couldn't resist. Thank you for your time and insight on Brad and Pat. Great to hear someone else's perspective who has seen them up close and personal. I think you're safe. I don't think you revealed too much that they'd be embarrassed by, but that's just me saying that. I don't know. Maybe the teams will use that for ammunition. In the meantime, I know we'll see you in Fort Wayne, but as always, do you have any final thoughts for those who may be tuned in?
I want to give a huge shout out to just the way we do the national tournament at the Division III level. We've got a lot of buddies and stuff that do Division II, and I know they run into some trouble, just logistically on how to run a tournament that's not very regionalized. And I know it's still a great tournament at that level, but there's something special when you put these pods together at our level. And I know there's a lot of work that goes into it from the schools and the committee. And but man, you got some really good pods those first 2 weekends. And I know we're UAA and NESCAC heavy, which obviously our WEAC crew here is going to do everything we can next year to get one of us into it. But it's still been a heck of a tournament. And so just a huge shout out to everybody that puts this thing on for all of us at the Division III level on both sides, men's and women's.
Agreed. There's some things I could love to have seen a little bit better, but overall it's not D2. And I've heard more and more out of D2 wishing that they weren't as regionalized as they are, the old school look at D3. So I agree with you on that for sure. Hey, thanks for your time, Matt. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you coming up. Good luck with the Twins, and maybe good luck avoiding Brad. I don't know. We'll see. Take care of yourself. I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
Matt Lewis joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with him. Great perspective on Pat Yuckham and on Brad Fisher there. That was fun. We're going to pivot and wrap up the show here. I was hoping to get Wesleyan and Trinity post-game press conferences, the only other ones we could seem to get access to on the air, but we ran out of time. That Smith one went long because I forgot about the ad that might run in the middle of it. So I apologize for all of that, but we do have links to those post-game press conferences on our show page. And if more show up of the 3 we don't have, which includes Oshkosh women, and I'm forgetting who else, we will put those online there as well for you when we bump into them. A reminder, the championship games or the semifinals on Thursday air on ESPN+. The women's is at 5 and 7:30 roughly. The men's at 5:30 and 8. All those times Eastern. I don't know who the women's crew is. I meant to look up, get that information before today's show, but I completely forgot. I will try and do that and tweet it out when I can. On the men's side, it'll be Brendan Gulick, who's a Division III grad at John Carroll. You might remember him from past semifinals on NCAA.com. And myself. We'll be calling both semifinals and championship. The All-Star game is at 1 p.m. for the NABC. There's going to be a stream, but for the first time ever, I'm telling you, I don't know the information. I handed off responsibilities to that to Pat Coleman, and he took it and ran with it, which I much appreciate. He's working on the details with that with the NABC on how that's being streamed. The broadcast will feature him and Ryan Scott, I believe. But that will be at 1 o'clock. That will be streamed. I don't know what's going on with the WBCA All-Star Game. I am told there is one. I'm told there'll be a release. After last year, we tried to reach out and offer assistance on that. It was accepted, but then I don't know where we had the miscommunication. We haven't heard anything since. And that's all love to WBCA people. Let's work on that in the offseason. See if we can get this All-Star Game of yours a bigger and brighter spotlight it deserves. But I would assume both championship games are at 4. Men's All-Star is at 1. I assume the Women's All-Star will be at 1 at the Kreger Center. And that's the other thing. Remember, women's is at Kreger Center on the campus of Roanoke College in Salem, Virginia, in the Roanoke Valley. Men's championship weekend is at the Allen County Coliseum. Sorry, just drew a blank on the full name of that place. In Fort Wayne, Indiana, being hosted by Manchester University down the street. This is our penultimate time, I think, in Fort Wayne. Next year we go for the Elite Eight and Final Four before going on to Indy for the national championship in men's basketball. And then we take at least 2 years off and go elsewhere. Whether Fort Wayne comes back to the mix is to be determined. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure. I'll be interested to talk to people there about how the bid process went for that 2-year thing that came up this year that they did not bid for men's basketball, and whether they're going to be interested in diving back into men's basketball because they got the momentum they were interested in those 2 years or didn't get the momentum. They did get D3 wrestling. I remember that. I just don't know if they've gotten other things that they were interested in. And that will impact whether they rebid for men's basketball in the future and where men's basketball goes in the future. And we can also talk in the future about trying to get these 2 championships in the same place somewhere down the road. I know there's been movement in that direction. We'll see how it plays out. I can't remember the next 2 bids are, and there's someone probably yelling at me that I am forgetting something obvious, and I apologize for that now. But, yeah, we'll see where it goes. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up. A reminder. Normally, we have our wrap-up season finale in terms of video shows immediately following the championships. So next week, either Monday or Tuesday. That will not happen this year. We will air our final video show, as it were, on April 1st. That is no joke. It will air most likely in the afternoon, barring a weather... barring a curveball of the weather, then we might have to move in the evening because I'll have to be working that day anyway. But so far, that's a day off. So we will have the show on that day. We will talk to both champs. We'll talk to the Jostens winners. Oh, we didn't get a chance to talk about the Jostens. I'll talk about them here quickly. We'll talk to both Jostens winners. We will talk, and we'll wrap up the season, hopefully with some guests from around our crew to talk about the championships and all of that. Hats off to the Jostin Trophy finalists. I should have mentioned this earlier. I apologize. We'll quickly run through them, 10 from each side. On the women's side, and I apologize if I botch any names here, Daniela Bressler from Yeshiva, Grace Bezold from Hanover, Natalie Bruns, who we talked to earlier from NYU, Gracie Carollo from UW-Whitewater, Lauren Huber from Illinois Wesleyan, Kaylee Jones from Luther, Cam Lexow from Gallaudet, Catherine Orr from Carnegie Mellon, Olivia Rangel from Carroll, and Zoe Tomlinson from Colorado College. On the men's side, Ryan Brokel, I think is how you say it, from Wisconsin Lutheran, Hayden Doyle from WashU, Scott Gimenesi from Tufts, Tate Ivanyo from Anderson, Hank Morgan from Hamilton, Jordan Oates from Salisbury, Logan Pearson from UW-Platteville, Amari Smith from Whittier, Sam Trunley from Case Western Reserve, and Jack Spellman from Stevens. A reminder, this is not just about what happens on the court. As one who votes on these two, I certainly take a lot of time to understand who these are as student athletes. So what are they as students? What are they as members of their community, especially? Service above self, as the Salem Rotary, the Rotary International motto is in general, but this is promoted by the Rotary Club of Salem. And so I vote on those aspects, certainly. And we hope that, I don't know how other voters do it, but I do it more than just who's the best player on the floor. That may end up being synonymous and it's an easy vote. But for some, I may not vote who I think the best player is if I think somebody else also has incredible academics and community service. So congratulations. They'll be announced next week. And thus another reason we're postponing the wrap-up show to the following week, so we can have both Justin's winners on there. There is a fan vote coming today at some point. The fan vote will launch for that on each the men's and women's side. The fans get essentially one vote of the panel. This is the 27th time this is being awarded, and the fan vote's been pretty synonymous for a while now. So looking forward to seeing how that all breaks down. And I'm looking forward to reading through all their resumes and making my choices here relatively soon as well. If you are in Fort Wayne, myself, Pat Coleman, Ryan Scott will be around. You may not see a ton of me on Friday. I got work to do, but I will be around. Certainly will be at the coach's reception, I assume, I assume I'm invited still. And I'll be around on Thursday and Saturday, obviously, as well. Arrive in time for dinner on Wednesday and leave at lunchtime on Sunday. You can always get a hold of us at Hoopsville at d3sports.com if that is your fancy. Appreciate you all tuning in. Had great guests today. Had great conversations today. Really enjoyed the show. Want to thank, first off, from NYU, Natalie Bruns and Tristan Howe. I want to thank Hannah Iverson and Anna Much from Wisconsin Stout. Pat Yuckham for joining Pat there from WashU, and Matt Lewis again from Oshkosh. And thank all their sports information staffs for their assistance. Bernstein at NYU. I'm going to forget names because I don't have emails in front of me, which is always my problem. Brady at Oshkosh, Casey at Stout, and, Pat handled things at WashU with lacrosse and WashU people, so he'd be more appropriate to thank there. And thanks for Pat for putting that together as well. That'll do it for us. We will see you in Fort Wayne. We will look forward to seeing the championships in Salem. Gordon Mann will be in attendance in Salem, and I am looking forward to seeing you all back here on April 1st. Again, no joke. We will wrap up the Hoopsville or the D3 Hoops season on that day, and we will also talk about our plans, and we're more serious about them now, for the offseason, which will include help from yourselves. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops from the Hoopsville studios here in the Baltimore area. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the championships, whether on ESPN Plus or in person in Fort Wayne and Salem. This should be an outstanding weekend of Division III basketball. We all know this is the best brand in the NCAA, and they're going to show it this weekend like they have the last two. I can't wait. I hope you can't wait as well. Take care. See you soon.